Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alicia, and today we're going to be talking about the books that I really want to read in the month of May. So I will be participating in a total of 3 readathons technically, or at least trying to. If you're not aware, I do run a year-long readathon called Shop Your Stash with the goal of reading books on your shelf. Apart from that, I will also be trying to participate in the Asian Readathon and also in the Mental Health Awareness Month readathon hosted by some of my friends. I will go ahead and leave all of the announcement videos down below, that way you can go ahead and check out all of the prompts. So without any further ado, let's get right into the video. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the books for the Shop Your Stash readathon. Then I'll go ahead and move on to the books that I plan to read for the Mental Health Awareness Month readathon. And then lastly, I'll mention the books that I want to read for the Asian readathon. So first of all, I do want to start off with Remote Control by Nnedi Okorafor. This is the book that we chose to buddy read over at my Discord, and I'm really excited to get into this. I read the Binti trilogy last year and I really enjoyed it, so I can't wait to read something more by Nnedi Okorafor. Now, going over to the Shop Your Stash readathon, the first prompt is to read a book with a 5-word title, and the book that I chose is Orange is the New Black. This is by Piper Kerman. I watched the show when it first came out and I really liked it. I didn't even know that the show was based on a book. So then about a year ago, I found this book at a thrift store and I was like, oh shoot, okay, I have to pick it up. And then I picked it up, I bought it, and to this day I haven't read it. Prompt 2 is to read a book written by 2 authors. For this prompt, I chose Abaddon's Gate, and this is by Jem A. Corey. This is a pen name. It is written by 2 separate authors, and this is the 3rd installment in the Expand series. No, I have not watched the show. I am going to start watching the show once I do finish Abaddon's Gate, because I feel like I'll be enough into the story where it won't spoil anything for me. I'm not sure if the show is finished and if it covers all the book. Let me know down below if you do have insights into that. So I'm really excited. I actually already started this one. I'm about 70 pages in. So I've been loving the expansion of the world, the expansion of different points of views, because I can't stand Holden. But Caliban's War actually left off on a major cliffhanger, so I can't wait till I finish this. So those were my picks for the Shop Your Stash readathon. As I mentioned, I will go ahead and link the announcement video down below. For the next 2 readathons, for the Mental Health Awareness Month readathon and the Asian readathon, I won't be trying to read all the prompts. This month I really wanted to focus on my own mental health, and I realized that I haven't really been picking up any of the books that I actually really want to read. So as you can tell, it's a completely new day. I'm in my office right now. So now we're going to talk about the prompts for the Mental Health Awareness Month readathon. This is being hosted by a couple of my friends. I will go ahead and link all of their channels down below. So if you want to check out any announcement videos, I only saw Rima's from Rima Reads, so I'll go ahead and link that. Not sure if everybody else did one, but I will go ahead and find them and link them down below if they did. So for the Mental Health Awareness readathon, I wanted to be really intentional since it is Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't want to try to force myself to find books for all of these prompts. Again, focusing on mental health, I want to make sure that the books that I pick for this are really intentional. They do have a group book, which is Every Heart a Doorway. I already put it on hold through the Libby app. I'm actually really excited to start Every Heart a Doorway because Come Tumbling Down by Shannon McGuire made the Hugo Award finalist for the novella category, and that's something that I'm planning to read, so I wanted to go ahead and start that series anyway. But I'm excited that I get to read it with friends. I'll go ahead and put the bingo board up that they did create, and I'll just go ahead and go through the ones that I will read. As you can see, read the group book is one of the prompts, which I will be doing. So I have genre fiction with mental health wrap. For this prompt, I'm going to choose How Can I Get Through to You? Closing the Intimacy Gap Between Men and Women, and this is by Terrence Real. And I actually already started this one. I'm about 25% through. The reason that I chose this, even though this is more of a book that's geared towards married couples, I'm not married, but I do have a partner, and I just really want to be able to communicate better. I personally feel like you don't have to be married to work on being able to understand someone else's perspective or learn how to communicate with them. And this one specifically talks about patriarchy and toxic masculinity and how it is harmful for both men and women. I particularly like so far how this author really differentiates between psychological and political patriarchy. He says that political patriarchy is the sexism that women experience, whereas psychological patriarchy is that binary between feminism and masculinity, and how this binary is harmful and can be violent for both genders. So about 25% through. There's some things that I'm taking with a grain of salt, but so far it has been very enlightening, and it's forcing me to think in ways that I haven't in the past, and then that's what I think mental health representation should be about, right? Definitely will help with my mental health and my partner's mental health, and me being able to communicate better and also understand where he may be coming from. So the next prompt on this list is read a YA book with mental health representation, and I also already started this one. For this one, I'm reading The Astonishing Color of After, and this is by Emily RX Pan. This is actually an Asian author, so I can actually use this one for the Asian readathon. However, I do have other books that I chose for those prompts, and this one I'm about 20% through, and this book deals a lot with cultural identity and also with grief. We have a young girl whose mom committed suicide, and at the same time that her mom was committing suicide, she was getting her first kiss with her best friend, and she sort of feels guilty about that, feeling like if she had only been there, things would have been differently, and just trying to process all that grief and all of those emotions, especially when her father was largely absent. He travels a lot. She is also biracial, so she's half Irish American and half Taiwanese American, and she's really disconnected from her Taiwanese side of the family. So after her mom dies, she does convince her dad to take her to visit her Taiwanese family, and she's learning about her cultural tradition and learning how to accept that her mom passed away. So far, it's been quite an emotional read. It's a very tender and moving story, and I'm really enjoying it. The next prompt that I plan to fulfill is the nonfiction book about mental health, and for this one, I chose This Will Be My Undoing by Morgan Jerkins. Now, this is a collection of essays, and I'll go ahead and read the synopsis from Goodreads. Morgan Jerkins' highly anticipated collection of linked essays interweaves her incisive commentary on pop culture, feminism, Black history, misogyny, and racism with her own experiences to confront the very real challenges of being a Black woman today. Morgan Jenkins is only in her 20s, but she has already established herself as an insightful, brutally honest writer who isn't afraid of tackling tough, controversial subjects. In This Will Be My Undoing, she takes on perhaps one of the most provocative contemporary topics. What does it mean to be, to live as, to exist as a Black woman today? This is a book about Black women, but it's necessary reading for all Americans. And the reason that I chose this one for mental health representation in adults is because it sounds like she's going to talk a lot about intersectionality at an array of identities, and me being a biracial woman and also me being a daughter of immigrants, I feel like there's a lot of intersectionality in my identities that aren't often explored in many books. So I really want to read from her perspective and hear her takes, because I feel like a lot of times I find a lot of value and I find a lot of insightful material in books that don't necessarily align perfectly with my identities, but of people who have mixed identities just like myself. Plus, as always, I try to read diversely, but this one sounds like it's going to be one that's very impactful, and I'm really excited to read it. Okay, so the last prompt that I do plan on participating with is the free space one. And for the free space on my board, I did choose another nonfiction book. This one is called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And this is by Lindsay C. Gibson. And you know, the title tells it all. One book that I've been staring at for a very long time, and I just know that I have to pick it up, but I haven't been ready, I haven't been in the right headspace, or I'm just afraid of unearthing whatever this book is going to unearth. But you know what? We're going to do it. It's going to happen. So really quick book synopsis. If you grew up with an emotionally immature, unavailable, or selfish parent, you may have lingering feelings of anger, loneliness, betrayal, or abandonment. You may recall your childhood as a time when your emotional needs were not met, when your feelings were dismissed, or when you took on adult levels of responsibility in an effort to compensate for your parents' behavior. These wounds can be healed and you can move forward in your life. You will see how these parents create a sense of neglect and discover ways to heal from the pain and confusion caused by your childhood. I'm sure I'm not the only one with a lot of unresolved trauma from when I was younger. I do come from a mixed background. My parents were not only immigrants. I'm not just Mexican American, I'm also part Indigenous and Native American. So like I mentioned earlier, I do have varying degrees of identities that I often fluctuate between. I feel like added this extra layer of complexity in my mental health, and there's a lot of generational trauma per se to deal through. So definitely just want to equip myself moving forward with the right tools to be able to, again, communicate or just even figure out how to be more introspective and find out what I need to work on. So excited and terrified to dig into this. So those are all the books that I plan to read for the Mental Health Awareness Readathon. I don't know if I'm going to vlog them, but you know, I might. You never know. And if I do, they'll be on non-spoiler. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you know the books that I plan to read for the Asian Readathon. I didn't want to stress myself out too much this month, so these are the books that I really want to prioritize. But you never know, I'm a mood reader, so I might end up picking up something else that's completely different. But if I do end up picking up something new, I'll definitely make sure that it is by an Asian author, and I'll go ahead and update you with weekly reading vlogs. So let's get into the first prompt for the Asian Readathon. First question is, read any book written by an Asian author. And for this one, I'm actually going to go with The Berry Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm already actually about a quarter to a halfway through it, so I'm excited to continue. This is like a post-Arthurian magical realism story, and it really explores the themes of memory, love, vengeance, war, and we follow an elderly couple named Axel and Beatrice who are on their way to find their son. There's a mist that has covered the land, and this mist causes amnesia. They haven't seen their son for quite a while, and they're very excited to reconnect with him. So they do go on this grand quest to go ahead and find their son, meeting people along the way and confronting their past. Like I mentioned, I already started. It is a very slow-paced book. It has very old, sort of very proper language, which I didn't expect. It really adds to that fable-like storytelling aspect of the book, which so far I am enjoying, so I'll go ahead and update you at the end of the month. Question number 2 for the Asian Readathon is, read any book featuring an Asian protagonist. For this one, I chose 1,000 Beginnings and Endings, 16 retellings of Asian myths and legends, and this is edited by Ellen O and Elsie Chapman, and it is written by a multitude of different Asian authors. And because these are retellings, all of the protagonists are Asian, whether it be Korean, Chinese, Vietnamese. There's quite an array in here. I've also already started this. As you can tell, I'm maybe almost halfway through it, and I'm really quite enjoying these. It's nice actually. Every night before we go to bed, my partner and I read one out loud to each other, and we talk about it and discuss. Coming from a Mexican American background, there's definitely similarities that I have found in some of these retellings, and my partner is half Chinese, and so he also has heard some oral traditions that were passed down through his family that are similar to maybe like a Korean myth or a Korean fable. So that's really interesting to find the similarities and the differences between these. So far, my favorite is called Olivia's Table by Alyssa Wong, and it's a Chinese story, and it reminded me a lot of the Day of the Dead and how we put out food for our ancestors. I just found it to be quite a little charming story. I'm excited to read more of them because they're really well written, but I also like that most of these have a modern twist on it. So after each story, you get a page explaining what the lore is behind, but then they also include a note of how they adapted it or modernized it to kind of fit the times of today, but still keeping those key components of the story. So really interested to finish this, and I, again, will update you at the end of the month. So the next book on this list is read any book written by an Asian author in your favorite genre. So my favorite genre changes every month and every single day. I'm human, I'm complex. Some days I'm feeling some genres more than others, and my current favorite genre are thrillers, horror, and mystery novels. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and choose Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, which I think is a legal thriller, and I don't think I've read a legal thriller yet. This year I've been really exploring the thriller genre. I don't know what types of thrillers I like, I just know that I really like them. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this one. I haven't heard too many things about it, but it sounded really interesting. So I couldn't tell you what it's about. I'm going to briefly read the synopsis because I don't want to be here all day, but it says, how far will you go to protect your family? Will you keep their secrets, ignore their lies? In a small town in Virginia, a group of strangers comes together at a special treatment center where they enter the Miracle Submarine, an experimental chamber that may cure a range of conditions. Then the chamber explodes and 2 people die. Who was responsible? Was it the exhausted mother of the patient, the owners hoping to cash in on the big insurance payment and send their daughters to college? Could it have been a protester trying to prove that the treatment isn't safe? An ensuing murder trial covered unimaginable secrets and lies. So I don't know, that sounds super interesting to me. But also, isn't this cover gorgeous? Prompt number 4 is read any nonfiction book written by an Asian author. For this one, I am going to go ahead and choose Crying in H Mart. My partner is actually currently reading it, so I don't have the physical copy with me. So I'm just going to go ahead and read a synopsis from Goodreads. So Crying in H Mart is by Michelle Sonner, and this is a memoir, and it says, in this exquisite story of family, food, grief, and endurance, Michelle Sonner proves herself far more than a dazzling singer, songwriter, and guitarist. With humor and heart, she tells of growing up the only Asian American kid at her school in Eugene, Oregon, of struggling with her wow, I live in Oregon now, that's super interesting, of struggling with her mother's particularly high expectations of her, and of painful adolescence, of treasured months spent in her grandmother's tiny apartment in Seoul, where she and her mother would bond late at night over heaping plates of food. I love Korean food, so I can't even imagine reading it because I'm just going to be hungry the entire time. That sounds fantastic, and I'm really excited to start that one. So the last prompt for the Asian Readathon is read any book written by an Asian author that's not US centric. For this one, I did go ahead and choose Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. It's about time that I start anything by Murakami. I did ask several of you where I should start, and most of you said here or with Wind Up Bird Chronicle or 1Q84. For some reason, Wind Up Bird Chronicle and 1Q84 just intimidate the shit out of me. So I'm gonna start with this one and see how I like it. I have no idea what this is about. Ben already read it and he liked it. He did have some issues with it, and I can't really recall right now what those issues were, but hey, you know, I'm gonna go in it and I feel like I'm gonna have a good time. I do enjoy magical realism, so we'll see. We're just gonna go with it. So I'm just really excited to get started on Murakami. Like I mentioned, I will try to go ahead and vlog some of these books so that you can get my in-depth thoughts as I am reading them. I will make them non-spoiler vlog. So if you do want to watch them, but you haven't read the books, you don't have to worry about that. So those were all the books that I plan to read in the month of May. Let me know down below if you're participating in any of these readathons. What's on your TBR? Have you started already? If you do like my channel, go ahead and subscribe and like. That is the best way you can support me. And if you did make it this far, go ahead and leave a book emoji down below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!